Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Ash, you made a statement earlier in your testimony that implementation of the ESA has changed, and it really has. In previous testimony, you testified in 2011 that your agency spent $15.8 of its $20.9 million listing program budget on taking substantive actions required by court orders or settlement agreements resulting from litigation, otherwise known as sue and settle. That included, in terms of sue and settle, isn't that how the Lesser Prairie Chicken got listed, was from a sue and settle suit, a consent decree? It is. You know.
The Lesser Prairie Chicken was part of the multi-district litigation settlement, but what that settlement did was what enabled us to push the deadline back beyond the strict deadline in the law, so it gave us more time to work with the range states.
The problem is that under sue and settle, you're bypassing Congress, you're bypassing states. You know, and that settlement, which the Fish and Wildlife Service acknowledged that meeting the settlement demands will require substantially all the resources in the listing program, but it also shows that environmentalists and agencies successfully precluded all interested parties from participating in the regulatory process that eliminated the warranted but precluded option and tied up most of the agency's listing program funds. The problem with these sue and settle cases is that outside groups are acting as plaintiffs against the Fish and Wildlife Service. And what I want to know is, when these suits are filed, how many of them have you litigated to the point of, if you lost at the lower court, that you appealed?
Well, all of the cases that were involved in the multi-district litigation were deadline cases. We have no defense, and so there is no appeal.
I understand. I understand exactly how.
Right, they're deadlines, so we either we make the deadline or we don't, and so if we don't make the deadline, the law doesn't give us an excuse.
But that's not true if you litigate. If you litigate the case and you lose in court, there is an appeal process. If you enter into a consent decree, there's no appeal.
If the law tells us that we have to make a decision in a year, and we don't make the decision in a year, the judge says you're guilty and puts us on a schedule to make the decision. There is no appeal. The Justice Department won't take that case on appeal because we're going to lose it on appeal, because it's a simple matter of the law. The law says we have to make a decision.
Okay, let me clarify. When an outside group brings a suit against the Fish and Wildlife Service, do you go to court? Mm-hmm. Or do you enter into a consent decree?
Oh, it depends on the context.
No, sir. I'm asking you: have you litigated any cases? Okay.
We are right now litigating. We're appealing the Wyoming wolf case. We're appealing the Great Lakes wolf case. We're appealing dozens of cases where the decision is a substantive decision, and we believe we can win on appeal. With a deadline case, which most litigation under the Endangered Species Act are deadline cases, there is no appeal.
Okay, let me ask you about this. You said that you also, some of the data is provided by NGOs. Who are some of the, I'm not going to ask you to give me the list now. I'd like for you to provide the committee with a list of NGOs that have provided data that Fish and Wildlife Service has utilized in its determination process. Okay. I'd also like to know if any of the NGOs have sued the Fish and Wildlife Service. Are you aware?
They have. Defenders of Wildlife, Safari Club, National Rifle Association, Audubon Society. They were in the state of Alaska. We just yesterday got a notice of intent from the state of New Mexico. So
with all due respect, sir, I want to try to get through a couple of other things here. And what I'd like to know is, prior to any suit being filed, have you or anyone at the Fish and Wildlife Service had meetings with any of these NGO or activist groups or individuals or any groups acting in support of or on behalf of any potential plaintiff against the Fish and Wildlife Service?
We meet with all of these groups on a regular basis.
Well, any of those meetings regarding
if you're asking a question of whether I've ever met with one of these NGOs and orchestrated a lawsuit that we could settle, absolutely not. Never.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
The gentleman yields back.